Good morning, NEXA Nation. How are you? So Mike forgot that he was supposed to intro me. So I don't get an intro. That's okay. You don't need one. I don't need one? I don't know. There was an LO who asked my nephew if I worked at NEXA. How did that happen? All right. So, as many of you know, one of my favorite things to talk about is perspective. And so today I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story and why I have the perspective that I have, okay? So, I grew up as the oldest of four, and as a child, my mom battled depression a lot. So, there were some really rough times, and there were some really good times, but the hard times were hard, all right? There we are. Look at that mischievous smile my baby brother's got. He's still the troublemaker. All right. But one thing that was constant was the fact that my dad was up before the sun, gone to work, battling, working hard, and his dad started his construction company just after World War II. And so this was a family-owned business, and he started working in that business at a very young age. He was up and gone before the sun was up, and most times he was not home until it was at least dark 30, right? It was dark outside. He was determined to make that company what it became. He put in the hours, he put in the work, and he is the reason I have the work ethic that I have from watching him. All right, now we get to the fun stuff. In 2001, I met my beautiful husband online. Yes, 2001, that's the very beginning of the whole dating online saga, right? From our first official date to the day that we said I do was exactly 3 months. We just celebrated 24 years, so it worked. But in keeping with that fashion, our oldest was born 9 days before our first wedding anniversary. We then proceeded to have 3 more. Alex turned 5 2 weeks before his baby sister was born. So I had 4 in 5 years. And for about 2 weeks, Christopher, my second son, he was 2 for 2 weeks until Natalie was born, until after Natalie was born. So he turned 3 2 weeks after she was born. So for 2 weeks, I like to claim that I had 3, 2 and under. All right. As you can imagine, this is kind of what my life was, right? Juggling everything. My husband was in the automotive industry, and I'm going to grab this water. My husband was in the automotive industry, and he worked a commission-based job. I was a stay-at-home mom with 4 little kids. So he was gone working, taking care of what he needed to take care of, and I was at home taking care of everything that I could handle, right? So, as you all know, you're LOs, commission-based can be a little scary sometimes. And there are good times and there are bad times, and sometimes it's a struggle. And we had those times. He would be at work and there wouldn't be any work. No work, no pay. So I did everything that I could to manage, make sure everything was good. Around this time, I took a position as a part-time daycare in a kids club at a gym. I had 3 littles. My oldest wasn't there yet. My baby wasn't here. But at that point, I met Amy. And the reason I tell you this is because Amy is an integral part of my story at NEXA. So I met Amy, and we had our last babies together. They were about 6 weeks apart. I knew she was pregnant before she knew she was pregnant. I handed her the test and said, hey, you need to go take this. So over the years, there was a lot of struggle that she and I had in common. Her husband at the time was also in the automotive industry, and so our struggles were very similar. She had an older daughter, my daughters were little, Her daughter's clothes came to my girls. My sons were older, their clothes went to her son. Like, that's just how we worked. We were together. We made sure we could help each other in any way possible. So we're gonna fast forward. 2013, we were living in Nevada, and my husband and I decided that it was time to come back to Arizona. We'd been in Nevada for 2 years, and we were ready to be back where there was some sunlight and no snow. So we made the decision, and it was mid-July, and school was already in session in Arizona. So 36 hours after we made the decision, I had the car packed up, my 4 little kids, a small trailer, 2 dogs, and I was headed to Arizona. Rich stayed to finish the 700, how big was the house? 910 square feet. We'd completely demolished. He had to stay and finish it so we could actually sell it. So I took the kids, went back to Arizona, and I moved in with my in-laws. Now, if you've never lived with your in-laws, you don't understand. Those of you who have, you feel me. It was hard living in someone else's house. That was not something we had ever done before. We'd always owned our own homes. So moving in was a little rough. A few months later, my husband came. We sold the house. We looked at getting him into a new job. And then we decided that it might be the best time for him to go back to school. So he had always wanted to get his engineering degree, and at this point, he'd never had the opportunity. Well, we're already living with my in-laws. So he went back to school, and I accepted a full-time position. So I went back to work. I was working part-time at Sam's Club, but I went to work full-time for the first time in 12 years. That was a little scary. So, if any of you have ever worked at Sam's Club or Walmart, you know that overtime is not acceptable. So, one week I had about 15 minutes of overtime, and my supervisor told me that I needed to take an extra 30 minutes at lunch. No. So, of course, I called Amy. This is me and Amy. I called Amy, and I'm telling her all of my woes at the time, right? And she tells me, well, Sam's hiring. Well, what is he hiring for? Data entry? Okay, what do I need to do? Filled out the application and got my first interview with Mike. Well, it was my only interview with Mike, let's be honest. Had my first interview with Mike, and I'm sitting across the desk from him, and he looks at me, and he says, "You're a good little Mormon girl. You can't handle us." Sam looks at him and says, "She handles Amy." He went, "Oh, okay." And he gave me a shot, right? So I got my offer from EPM, because that's who Mike worked for at the time, and it was a little bit of a hard decision for a couple of reasons. First, it was Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. That is not the schedule I was working at Sam's Club. I was in the bakery making beautiful cake, but that is not my schedule. I was there nights, weekends, holidays, 8 to 5. I'll take it. No weekends, more family time, but it was a pay cut. So my husband and I discussed, determined it was worth a shot. I wasn't happy where I was. He's a full-time student at ASU by this point in his engineering program, so I took it. About 3 months in, we are in a new office. We just moved back into a new office. And I say back because Mike had been in the office previously. So back into the office that he picked out long before, and the Wi-Fi wasn't working like it should. You know, everything we do is online, right? No Wi-Fi, no work. So Mike yelled down from his office, "Hey, get it fixed." He's yelling at the receptionist, "Get it fixed." She didn't get it fixed. And at one point, she went to lunch, and she didn't come back. So I think it was the next day, Mike called me up into his office, And he says, all right, I have two choices. I can give you a raise, and you can take on both jobs, or I can hire someone else. So give it to me. I'll take it. I'm happy to take that. So much for my no nights, no weekends, but it was worth it, right? So I was making minimum wage at the time, and Mike doubled my pay. Okay, that was worth the risk, right? I took it. Not long after, about 3 months, we opened NEXA. We opened NEXA with a handful of loan officers and me. And we have grown NEXA 5 loan officers to 3,300 plus in 8 years. Now, there have been a lot of changes over those 8 years. We've had 11, or is it 12 now? 11 compensation changes. Every compensation change has been for the betterment of our LOs. We want to pay you more and give you more, do more for you, right? Can we go back one on my notes? Thank you. We've had a lot of changes. We've had a lot of growth. So I frequently hear, how did you handle 4 kids so close in age, right? My answer is, I can't imagine my life without them. They are the reason I see things the way I see things. They're the reason that I can manage I'm trying not to say insanity because NEXA really isn't insanity, but then sometimes it is. So they're the reason I can manage all of the chaos, right? I am the keeper of all the chaos at NEXA. But they are the reason that I can do that, having 4 of them. I hear frequently, how does NEXA handle 3,300 plus loan officers? I remember when we had 50, when we had 100. What we didn't have was our systems. Loan officer support, LOS, all of the things that you guys have to utilize now were not in place. Believe me, it was much harder to manage those 50 and 100 than it is now. We've got amazing systems in place so that we can take good care of you guys. Oh. All right. So the reason I tell you a little bit of my backstory and where we are now is I think it's important to emphasize the change that's happened over the last 8 years. I remember standing in line, and I wasn't sure if I was going to share this today. I remember standing in line with my friend Amy, the one who got me the job with Mike. But I remember standing with her in line for a $7 food box so that I can make sure I could feed my family that week. I remember making minimum wage. Wow. I remember making minimum wage and worrying about being able to make the car payment. Then the car got repossessed. That wasn't great, right? That only happened one and only time. It will never happen again. But I remember what those struggles were like. And Amy was there for those. And Amy's the reason I got to work with Mike. The only good thing he says, it's the only good thing we got out of Sam. But now I'm here with you guys. I'm the executive director of the largest mortgage brokerage in the nation. You guys are awesome. So, NEXA has changed my life. The way that I see things, my perspective, might be the result of my kids, but you guys are, can't think of the word I want to use, you guys are gaining or gleaning from that experience. We're here to help you. We want you guys to grow in so many ways. But keeping the proper perspective on how things are, even when things are rough and changing, is going to serve you better. So, I'm going to give you guys a challenge. Are you ready? Do you guys like challenges? All right, this is your challenge. I want you to go and find your perspective. When you are in a situation that you're not sure about, find your perspective.